Guys, how you doing? Okay, so part 2 of the nature of God says Sashidananda. Let us now try to understand the meaning of the word Sashidananda, which is the true nature of God as realized by the sages and the knowers of truth. The term Sat indicates that which exists is equal proportion in all beings, at all times and in all places. The Atman pervades everything in full measure and is support of all. Every visible object therefore rests in the Sat aspect of God. Nothing exists without a support. Houses, factories, temples, mosques, all other buildings are supported by the earth. Gold is the basis for all golden ornaments. Cotton thread forms the warp and the woof of different types of cotton cloth. In the same way, God is the basic essence of which the entire universe is made. In other words, God is a fundamental fiber from which the entire pattern of the universe springs. That is why God is Sat, real existence, and is moving force behind the process of creation, sustenance, and dissolution of the universe. He is everything. He is reality itself. Therefore, truth is his very nature. A seeker of truth, therefore, attains God. The second aspect of God is Chit, which means cosmic intelligence or knowledge. Chit is also called Chaiti, the universal consciousness. Chaiti is that which all comes in all places, manifests or discloses everything as it is. Like the candlelight that makes things visible in the dark, Chit reveals whether or not an object exists. Chit, which imparts life or consciousness to all and shines forth through all objects, is Chiti itself. The vision of the eyes, hearing of the ears, the power of speech are all functions of that very Atman, which is consciousness. This power is known as Chaiti because it is the light of the sun and the moon and the effulgence of fire. It is the light of all lights in the universe. It is the very Chaiti shines in the form of a divine lustrous flame in everyone's heart, forehead, and Sahara. Fortunate sadakas see the light during meditation by the grace of the Guru. However, even when it becomes visible, it is not different from the absolute Brahman, which has no form or attributes. Now, I want to share with you really quick. When I meditate, I see lights inside of me. And I'm sure a lot of you do, for those that meditate. There are lights that activate and that are within us in our mind as we meditate. Different from the absolute Brahman, which has no form or attributes. The Chitti is the sovereign power governing all life, and hence it cannot be the exclusive possession of any particular sect or creed. Just as, according to Vedanta, this world is an imagination of the mind superimposed on the Atman, so are all the different faiths of the world creations of your mind, yet not separate from Chitti. Only pure Chitti, cleansed of all impurities and ignorance, can enter or be admitted into the greater universal Chitti. Just as a river loses its name and identity when it merges into the vast ocean, so is an individual admitted into the realm of infinite wisdom when all his man-made cults and creeds cease to exist. In that supreme wisdom, all imaginary beliefs, faith melt away, and the vanity of their followers also evaporates to Chitti. The entire world of its own manifestation It is the realm. There is no inequality. Only for people who have not been fortunate enough to receive the grace of the Guru does not inequality exist. Enough to receive the grace of the Guru does inequality exist. Okay. How could Chadrupa Paramatman, Lord of Wisdom, ever distinguish between Rama and Rahim, or Christ and Krishna, when such differences do not exist for those who have realized the truth by his grace? It is Chitti that provides the entire conscious manifestation. One who realizes Chitti perceives the entire world and all the different religions as existing in that Chitti and nothing else. To say that the entire world is a manifestation of Chidatman, the all-knowing self, is the same as saying the entire world is Chitti itself. The third aspect of God is Ananda. That is joy or bliss. All these nice, huge words I don't know how to pronounce. The Taittiriya Upanishad, and then it has like a 3:6, says, the Brahman is bliss, all things are born of bliss, are manifested by bliss, and ultimately merge into bliss. The Vedas, or the scriptures, the seers, the sages, and the enlightened ones unanimously affirm that bliss itself is the Supreme Lord. In fact, every activity in our life is motivated either to express joy or to acquire joy. A child is born out of happiness. We develop and sustain mutual relations with a view to becoming happy. Our striving for progress is also meant to bring more happiness. We undertake all of our activities and fulfill all of our duties, not to create more sects or dogmas, more paths and divisions, but rather to experience more bliss and happiness in life. Why does a human being seek joy in everything? It is because it is the very nature of the self, Ananda, or bliss. Just as Sat pervades everywhere, also Chit fills everything in full measure. Sat is Chit and Chit is Ananda. Therefore, Ananda, too, fills everything fully. All our mutual relations are based on love. It is not a mother's love. Is not a mother's love for her child pure and selfless? Do we not find older people loving younger ones just for the sake of love? The sweet smile of a child playing merrily in the lap of its mother, a husband's love for his wife, or unreserved sacrifice of a wife for the love of her husband, the willingness of a disciple to surrender everything unconditionally at the feet of his guru, and the grace with which the guru bestows on the disciple the gift of his own inner bliss, which makes him dance in ecstasy and awakens him from the evil dream of imaginary grief. All these support the view with that soul which is born out of bliss is bliss itself. Tender shoots of corn grow merrily into ears of corn. The new foliage blooms and beautiful flowers blossom, and the sun and moon rise and set regularly, playing in their own delight. The galaxies of the stars and constellations twinkle and illuminate the sky. The wind dances in all directions, drunk with its own joy, blowing its own music into every home, and rippling waters of rivers and rivulets flow continuously, singing in the name of the Lord. A person in distress is consoled by the kind words of a happy soul. The holy waters of the Ganges gradually wash away all impurities and sins, and bring peace and piety. Mother Earth cheerfully bears the burden of the entire world and offers fresh ever new harvest of infinite variety out of the fullness of her deep love. The cuckoo sings sweet melodies, and the Chitaka bird gives out his cries of love. Why are they all so happy? It is because they are born of the Brahman, whose very nature is joy and bliss. Bliss is the Supreme Lord, and all the Upanishads declare that the Supreme Lord is Satchidananda. That word is long and hard for me to pronounce. And then this is the ending of this chapter of God's nature, the nature of God. And then it says, Jivatman. Vedanta philosophy declares that Jiva, the individual, and Brahman are absolute, are one. It is true that the Jivatman, individual soul, is the same as the Paramatman, the Supreme Self. The Supreme Self projects itself in the form of individual selves and again merges into its original self. The Lord declares in the Bhagavad Gita, XV7, that all individual selves are part of the Lord's own eternal spirit. Mamai Vamacho Hivaloke Jiva Bhuta and Sanatana. I'm not too good at pronouncing those, guys. I'm sorry. For none other than the Lord can become the Jivatman. The Taittiriya Upanishad says, Tat Shrita Tave Tadevanu Pravasat. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys these words really quick, just so you guys can see them, and if you want to pronounce them, or whatever you want to do with them, it's right here in this section, all those names that I'm having a hard time doing, and hopefully it comes out the proper way. Okay? Having created it, he himself entered into it. Having created the physical bodies of all creatures, Paratman himself entered into them to make them alive and active. It is the fleshy human mechanism that can make the eye see or the tongue speak, that gives the power of hearing to the ears, of the power of smell to the nose. Does the flesh have the power to see anything? No. It is consciousness, the soul, residing and vibrating in the inner sanctum of the human temple that makes the senses function. The Atman is absolutely pure, perfect, and changeless. It is so pure that none of the good or bad qualities of the physical body can affect it. The Atman exists in infinite physical bodies and yet remains untouched by them. It may seem to be tainted by the impurities of the mind, but if one follows yoga practices as instructed by the Guru, the mind and the senses are purified of all thoughts and desires. The Antakarana, inner being, becomes extremely subtle. Such a perfectly pure Antakarana is by all means ready to receive the experience divine bliss. It is indeed possible at this stage to attain realization of the ever pure inner self. Jivatman, by its very nature, is pure divine luster. Saint Kabir said, Saba Gata Saira Me Hai Suni Seja Nakoi. God dwells in everyone, everybody. Not even one form is left out. And that kind of goes with my little saying that God is in everyone, including his adversary. The Bhagavad Gita, those words, in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord tells Arjuna that God dwells in the heart of every being. Eshavra Sarvabhutatman Harudesh Runa Tishatai Bhagawan Shri Nityananda used to tell the same thing to the Sadakas. God is within you. Why are you searching for him in the jungles? Why are all these unnecessary wonderings? In the Sadakar, Sankaracharya says, Deho Devalayaha Prokto Dehai Devo Naranjanaha. The body is spoken of as the temple, and the indwelling soul as the immaculate God. In other words, the human body is a holy temple, and the Jivatman that dwells within is none other than the Paramatman. This identity of Jivatman and Paratman is realized when the state of Soham, I am that, is actually experienced after complete purification of the mind, but the realization becomes possible only when the Sadguru bestows his grace upon the disciple. As the wise say, the indwelling soul is connected by a thin but tough veil of ignorance, which does not allow us to know the purity and perfection of that soul. The ignorance is burned up in the fire of yoga, which is kindled by the grace of the Guru through Shaktipat. The individual soul then truly realizes its identity with the Supreme Self and is inspired to retreat Shivaham, I am Shiva, the greatest of all mantras. The Jivatman clings to its limited individuality only so long as it does not realize its true self. This is an imaginary bondage that makes the soul think itself as imperfect. The Pratyahimnahijayam says, one who has become poor in Satki is called a transmigratory being. In other words, a soul that has no knowledge of the true nature of itself and has remained unenlightened because of its failure to earn the grace of the Guru, considering itself only to be a flesh and blood body, is unhappy and unaware of duality because of its ignorance. But the Pratyahijannaridayam further says, with the unfolding of his inherent Shakti, however, one is Lord Shiva himself. In other words, one who has reached within, one who has searched within, who has studied Vedanta philosophy well, who has practiced yoga and meditation, whose ego is completely annihilated, and who is devout, pious, and unattached, sees God within himself by grace of the Guru. When the disciple's latent Shakti unfolds itself fully by the Guru's blessings and the feeling I am, Jivaham vanishes and the knowledge that I am Shiva, Shivaham dawns. That blessed soul then permanently lives in the awareness of I am Shiva. This is like the ordinary soldier becoming a king because of some sort of past merit, never again to revert to his former position. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, the fire of knowledge burns all karmas to ashes. When through the grace of the Guru, the divine spark of knowledge burns up the veil of ignorance, the disciple has a direct glimpse of the true nature of himself and is enraptured by the pure bliss of the self. Atmananda. This is the fulfillment and the beatitude, which is the same as enlightenment or self-realization. And the really cool thing I want to share about that is that when I came into the full truth and the knowledge of who I am, I felt the fire burning all the lies out of me. Like I was on fire. Like I could feel it. And it was so like, wow. It was so cool. Now, I'm just reading this for, knowledge. I'm not trying to get into any religions or anything like that. So I just wanted to share it because it's a book that I'm reading and it's called Light on the Path. I will never get into any religions because I feel like once you take on a religion, you cut yourself off from being a Christ-like figure because of the fact of somebody's religion's always saying that mine's better than that one. Well, if you are truly standing within the truth, then we would know that we are all one and we are all the same within. And we don't take on, I'm better than that, or I'm better than you, because nobody's better than anybody. I don't care how rich you are. I don't care how poor you are. Nobody's better than anybody. And that's just the way it is. Because if you step out of this skin suit, okay, then who are you? Take this flesh off and who are you? And are you still better than the guy down the street when you don't have any of your material items? What's your heart say? What's your heart say that you are? Who does your heart say that you are? I love you guys. Thanks for spending time with me. I know there was a lot of difficult words in there for me to pronounce, but they're pretty difficult. They're like really long words. Anyways, I love you guys. Have a beautiful night, and I'll be back.